its people $27 million before the trial, before the jury's even selected. That's great. I mean, it's great. I made that comment on Facebook, and somebody just really lambasted me. That, well, what if it was your child? You know, that wasn't the issue. The issue in our nation is that forever we have had our people that have been murdered by the authorities, by the police, and have not even received an "I'm sorry." And of course there have been settlements, many settlements over the years, but no settlement this big. It did send a clear message. Now I do want to say that the situation of this particular crime, the killing of George Floyd, was a little bit different in that the entire world was watching. Everyone on this planet was watching, simply because of the internet and the 24-hour news cycle. So something had to be significant in order to assuage the emotions of an entire planet of people that watched this tragic crime transpire. And so I have to believe that the settlement would not have been that large had there not been any witnesses. There probably would have been no settlement at all. There probably would have been nothing more than this gentleman resisted arrest. You know? So let's not be fooled into be thinking times have really changed. Let's just be thankful that there were smartphones in the hands of so many people that caught this heinous murder, and it went viral, okay? But that's a lot of money, and that's good. I know those attorneys are pretty happy. I'm sure they probably got half, you know? And that's good. They should, because we need little victories. We need little victories like that. And I guess one of the gripes that an individual on Facebook had with me, you know, the same individual that, what if it was your son? See, my perspective on equality is not that we're not going to be murdered by the police. it's because you have corruption everywhere. Okay, you have people of ill character everywhere in the police force, and judges, attorneys, and all that stuff. But equality is that if a black man is murdered by a police officer, his family should have the same recompense as a white family would. That officer should face the same scrutiny at trial as an officer would who killed a white man. So that's what equality is. Equality doesn't mean nobody dies. Equality means that we're all equal. And so if I die wrongly, the recompense to myself, the punishment for the perpetrator, should be the same as anyone else. That's what equality is. And so I want to take it a step further. So let's not rejoice. Okay? Because I spent too much time, I spent over 17 years in the justice system speaking to and encouraging folks who were, incarcerated. Most of them who were pending, their court appearances and all. And so what I'm suggesting is that we need to become better people. We have to stop committing crimes. We have to be, whenever I get an opportunity to see a historical picture on the Red Tails, those Tuskegee Airmen, and how and the excellence in which they conducted their missions, and how they lost none of the bombers that they were protecting, the only ones that could tout that record, because they flew with excellence. Now we got to recognize, my dad was in the military in World War II. He was in the Army, he was a cannoneer. He was also in the military during the Korean conflict, also volunteered and went to Vietnam in his 40s. My father was a lifer, military man. And my father was from the Bronx, New York. And he recognized, I'm sure, at an early age that of all the racial issues that were going on in the nation, you're talking about initially a segregated military even, that the safest place or the place for the best chance of progress would be the U.S. military. You had generals, you had officers, you had every type of military man. Benjamin Davis Sr., Benjamin Davis Jr. During World War II, I mean, you had progression within the military even when it was segregated. Okay, so that was a good place to be for a black man. And then they integrated. And the military was a perfect place where the black man could perform with excellence, as we saw with the Red Tails, because they had something to prove. See, we don't have they didn't have the luxury that we have today of pretty much things being equal, like in the military or whatever. We don't really have to prove ourselves. We had a black president, which has nothing to do with that everything is okay, but it just proves that you can accomplish more if you keep your nose clean. He didn't even hardly keep his nose clean when he was a young man. But the point is, we are in a place today, as the Red Tails, as the black man in the military was in a place then, that we are held under a different microscope. That we have to perform better, okay? And I'm not saying that. I said this on Facebook a long time ago, and a brother really took issue with me saying, why do we have to prove we're not proving ourselves to them, we're finding a way to survive, okay? See, those Red Tails, the Tuskegee Airmen, they performed with an excellence that white squadrons did not perform to. Why? White squadrons didn't have to perform to because they didn't have anything to prove. They were already treated well, okay? So the Tuskegee Airmen had to operate in an excellence that was beyond normal in order to take what was theirs, okay? What should have been theirs all along. And I'm saying is we need to come to that point to recognize that we have to take ourselves out of the system. We have to take ourselves out of the reach of because there are tons of corrupt police officers. I believe that there are probably more better officers than corrupt ones, but there are still many corrupt police officers. Many corrupt, and when I say corrupt, I don't even know if the point is that they are consciously corrupt. When a judge gives out a tougher sentence to a black man, he may not be consciously biased. This might be a subconscious. When he sees this black man, he sees evil. He doesn't see what's actually standing before him. When he sees the white guy, he sees, oh man, he looks like my nephew. You know what I'm saying? And he's not even consciously thinking that. He gets the feeling that he would feel when he's with his nephew. So he's not going to be as hard on this white guy as he is on his brother. We talked about this in a couple programs before about the white privilege wasn't really a conscious bias. It was a subconscious bias that many folks weren't even aware of, whether it was the white privilege that an individual was bestowing on a white person simply because he was more comfortable with them on a subconscious level because he's like my nephew and my niece and whatever, or it's the feeling from the perpetrator, the white perpetrator, that I'm just doing what I want to do. I shouldn't be treated, as the white privilege as well. But it's not really a conscious thought. That's why even when they stormed that Capitol down there, they got 500 of those rioters that are probably going to prison. Okay, they can't, and you see them now being interviewed. You saw how crazy they were when they stormed the Capitol? Hey, look at any of those videos. And look at them now crying. I just want to go home to my mom and dad. Or they're not feeding me the right kind of food. I don't understand why I'm still in prison. Why I'm away. All these, because reality kicked in consciously that there is no privilege that they subconsciously thought they had. I know we talked about this a couple programs ago, but you had the Congress people, the white folks, that were hunkered down in the Capitol wondering if they were going to live or die. Come on now. Their white privilege, their subconscious white privilege, I'm safe no matter what, no matter where I go, went out the window. For the first time in their lives, they felt what it was like to be a black man with no privilege. And this is not just the Republicans. These are Democrats. These are all white people. We'll just say in the United States, but it's probably worldwide as well, but especially in the United States. I don't care if you're a liberal, progressive, walking around with a Black Lives Matter sign, still white privilege on a subconscious level, and as well, if you're and as well, so how do I want to put this? Well, you feel that white privilege. You don't even realize it. The fact that you have the luxury to go out and try to tell the world to give that Black Lives Matter for this guy too, that's your white privilege. That you feel you're in a position to be the champion for this poor black guy who's not getting his rights. White privilege. And I'm not even fault. I mean, it's a subconscious thing, so it's not even your fault. White people are born into that kind of privilege. I mean, when you come into the world, whatever, this is a white kid. That's it. He looks like Cousin Jody's baby. You know what I'm saying? So we don't. Black folks don't have that. So we have to go that extra mile to take ourselves out of the negative influence from those who are functioning in that subconscious white privilege bias. Okay? So what I'm saying is, that's what Obama did. Come on, man. So if Obama was on the same intellectual level as those who he debated with in the Democratic primary and as well in the general election against the Republicans, if he was on the same intellectual level as those white guys, he would have never become president. But the fact that he was better than they were, he was smarter than they were, he was deeper than they were, he was physically fit, man. He could hit a three-pointer, for real. I'm just saying, he was way better. And I'm speaking in a quantitative, measurable way. Intellectually, he dwarfed those white guys that he was debating with. He had to. Because if he was on the same level as them, he would have never been chosen. He would have never been president. And so what I'm suggesting today is we have to recognize that these biases exist, and we have to take ourselves out of the reach of those in authority who function with those subconscious biases against black folks. I don't even know if it's against black folks, but it's more like it's for white folks. We have to recognize the battlefield. We have to recognize who we're fighting. Sun Tzu talks about, you have to know yourself. He says something like, if you know yourself and not the enemy, you'll win half the battles. If you know the enemy and not yourself, you'll win half the battles. But if you know neither the enemy or yourself, you're going to lose every battle. Okay? So I'm saying we need to recognize that, man. So we need to stop committing crimes. I'm telling you, we need to be like the Red Tails. Man, we need to be able to march upright. We need to be able to march straight. We need to be able to handle our business. And take ourselves out of the purview of that influence. Man, I remember growing up, man. I remember when I was like many young people, they used to have those point systems. I don't even know if that exists now when you're driving and you get tickets and all that stuff. Man, I was always at the verge of losing my license because I had so many tickets, speeding tickets. Well, you got to take yourself out of that system, out of that legal system. So now, I mean, I haven't had a ticket probably in, I don't know how many years, 10, 15 years. Man, they run my license plates, man, I'm the most boring guy that you can imagine. See, a lot of times, a lot of our brothers and sisters, they get jammed up, and not all of them, because, we do have Breonna Taylor and all, we have a lot of folks that haven't done anything. Sandra Bland as well, many of them. But many, probably the majority of our folks that are getting jammed up by the police do have police records. So immediately, this police officer already has this bias against this black man or for white folks that mathematically translates to against black men. And then he runs your name and he gets this rap sheet, so that just enhances that negative bias he has against that black man. And before you know it, he's like really mistreating, mishandling this black man. It doesn't always happen, and it probably doesn't mostly happen. It probably happens more in certain areas, like LA, Philadelphia, certain areas like that. But I'm just saying is we need to take ourselves out of the system. We need to stop committing crimes. I mean, we need to stop. We need to clean up our act. Because that's the only way we're going to pull ourselves out of the reach of the corruption. And so the red tails just keep coming back to my mind, keep coming back to my mind. I mean, they were regular guys. My mother, one of my mother's cousins, he was a red tail, okay? One of the Tuskegee Airmen. But I'm just saying we have to begin to walk like that. We have to begin to operate like that, to recognize the system, to recognize how to fight the system. We have to understand ourselves, who we are, understand the system for what it is, and deal with it. And what I'm telling you is a lot of this responsibility lies, on the shoulders, on the backs of parents. Man, then the buzz is a tremendous issue in our community today. And you know that when you're high, when you're drinking or whatever, you're not thinking normally, okay? You're not thinking as you would had you been sober. So we need to stop demonstrating that buzz in front of our kids. As much as I used to get that buzz back in the day, I am so glad that none of my kids have ever seen me drink or smoke weed or any of that stuff. And so they came up, with a different mindset, Man, I came up, my dad was a regular GI. He was like night manager in the NCO club. He was an E9 Chief Master Sergeant. He got lit all the time, just like regular GIs, okay? So that's what I saw, every night. Well, not every night probably, but that's what I saw all of my life growing up, my dad getting that buzz. He was a good man. He wasn't a mean drunk. As a matter of fact, he'd be smiling and he'd be happy when he'd come home lit like that from the club. All our military dads basically were like that, pretty much. So when I got older, well, my father validated the buzz for me. Okay, his was alcohol. But I just chose a different kind of buzz. But the buzz was validated for me. It's okay. My dad was a good man. He provided for his family. We were never in need, never in want, served this country. He was always overseas, especially in the Middle East a lot, but he was in Vietnam in my lifetime. So he was a good man, the greatest man. He loved to laugh. He was just a good guy. And he got a buzz. So the buzz was validated to me. I just chose a different kind. And so I'm just saying, as parents, we need to recognize that. We need to recognize the influence that we're having on our children. And so we need to clean up our act, just like those red tails. We can't do that. We need to stop smoking weed, stop drinking alcohol, stop going out, stop doing all these things. Exercise, everything that you want your child to be. Do you want your child to be overweight, unhealthy, cholesterol, diabetes, high blood pressure? Of course not. Then don't be that in front of them. Be in front of your children what you want them to be, because they're looking at you, they're watching you. What kind of husband do you want your daughter to marry? Be that kind of husband. What kind of husband do you want your son to be? Be that kind of example in front of his eyes. What kind of father do you want your children to be? Be that kind of parent. What kind of mother do you want your children to be? Be that kind of mother. It's squarely on our shoulders as parents, because they're watching. And you might say, well, they're really not like me. They are. You look close at your child. You look close. Is it the things that frustrate you about your child? They're probably your character traits, your personality traits that they've picked up from you. I see it all the time in my kids. And I learned that at a very young age, as a parent, and so that's what I deal with them on that level, How would I be? There's no reason for me to simply be yelling at my child because they did this or did that and all this stuff, because I know when I was a kid, I'd stand there, he's going one ear, going right out the other. I know that. So when I speak to my kids, I reason with my kids. I share with them, what you're doing here, the possible ramifications, and how it could impact you negatively, rather than just yelling at them because I said so. Because I wouldn't care about that. So I have to deal with them on that level. I have to deal with the kids on my level, the level that I was at, as far as I did a lot of things growing up as a kid that I shouldn't have done, and nothing harmful. But my philosophy was always, well, if I don't tell my parents, they can't say no. So I didn't disobey, right? So I have to realize that. So I have to be a step ahead when I'm talking to my kids about possible scenarios and why it will be detrimental for them, not just because I don't want them to, but what it could do to their future, okay? And that's simply because I understand how they are like me, okay? And so what I'm suggesting is our kids are like us. Deal with them on that level. Don't validate that buzz in front of them. Don't validate poor behavior to your, nowadays, yeah, this is impossible. Yeah, we argue, especially, husbands and wives, we argue. But let me tell you something very weird. My parents, this is the honest truth, I never heard them argue one time growing up, ever. After my father died, my mother said they used to argue all the time, but they never let us hear it. Okay? So I'm just saying, the path that our children take, most of the time parents are responsible for. And if it's about breaking the law, if it's about doing something they're not supposed to be doing, a lot of times they're watching us and we've validated that. I'm trying to be very careful about sometimes even driving. I've been driving since I was 16. I'll be 63 this year. There's certain bad habits I have, and my daughter, who's getting ready to get her license, is always checking me, and I have to acknowledge that. Now this is, I'm a pastor, a minister. Have been for since I was 28. Well, I've been since I was about 32 or so years old. But and my daughter, she's coming up, real good spiritual person. And so, man, she checks me sometimes. I love Santana, right? Everything by Santana, just about. So they were in the car, and Black Magic Woman's coming on. She's like, Black Magic? That's not good. She turns my radio channel off. And it's just reminding me how our kids are watching us. Now they're watching us to the point where they're still good. But if they see you continually doing something that maybe we shouldn't be doing, and they believe that you are good, Dad is good, and it's okay for him, that's going to be a negative influence. I think my mom was a super Christian, right? For real, all my life. But I remember we were in Germany. I think I was about 7 or so years old. My little sister was probably about 4 or 5, something like that. And me and my brothers were getting ready to go to the movies, the matinee. And my sister, she wanted to go because she knew we were going to the movies. And my mother's like, no, they're not going to the movies. And then I said to my mom on the side, I said, Mom, but we are going to the movies. That isn't true. And my mom's response was, do you want to go or not? So, but so my mom, it was justified to her because she's trying to put my sister to have her take her nap like she's supposed to. She can't go to the movies with her big brothers and all. But my mom was the best person in the world. And so at that moment, I'm thinking, I don't think I processed it like that then, but too much of that, an individual will begin to see, well, it's okay to lie if you have a reason. Okay, so it's very, I think it's easier if the kids have a parent that they know is rotten. Okay, then they might be more inclined to say, no, I'm not going to do what they're doing. But a lot of times they still do. You're just like your daddy, and that's not a good thing. I took a lot of heat once. I guess I'm just talking this program, but I took a lot of heat once on Facebook from this person. I think she didn't defriend me, but she doesn't talk to me anymore. Because I said, and I didn't really know her that well, but I think she's related to me somehow, cousin or something. But I said, every kid doesn't need to know his daddy. Okay? So you have a lot of single mothers out there that really get frustrated because they don't believe that their child has the relationship with their daddy like they should. And it doesn't matter if the daddy's a criminal, if the daddy's a drunk, if the daddy's a drug dealer, if the daddy's a whatever, they still think that this child should have a relationship with the daddy. And I just didn't agree, and I still don't agree. So do you look at that daddy? Is that what you want your kid to be like? Then that kid might be better off not knowing his daddy. Okay? And I'm just as hard on me as well, okay? Early on in life, I wasn't a good example. I'm glad my kids didn't know that guy. But I'm saying every kid doesn't need to know his daddy if his daddy's kind of jacked up. I think a good smart mother will look at that father and say, is that what I want my little boy to be like? If not, you You can make up myth. You know, your daddy was a fireman. You can make up a myth all you want. You can have your child trying to become something their daddy never was, simply because you're not really sharing the truth about how rotten their daddy was. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Mom's the same, but it's usually the mothers that's with that kid. So I guess in the bottom line, I'm just saying we just need to we need to recognize that we have to be better. We have to be better than that. We have to be better than them, and we can. I mean, we have a history. Look, we've been in this nation since 1620, through all kinds of horrendous, terrible traumas and situations: slavery, torture, murder, child rape, adult rape, male, female. It wasn't just the females that were being raped by master, believe me, okay? So you had every kind, and a lot of the ill sexual desires, I think, that we have as men, come on, roll over, you know, that we have is a result of some of those perversions that were forced upon males, you know. Why else? Why else would you want to do that? You know, unless there's some kind of deep subconscious thing passed on from generation to generation that somehow validated that perversion. All I'm saying is, that's a whole nother story. All I'm saying is we need to recognize that the situation is pretty jacked for us, but it is fixable. It's going to take a responsible move on our effort to become sober, to become educated, to get healthy. Stop getting high. Get some education, and get healthy. Exercise, and be that influence to turn our kids into that which, you know, we need them to be. My son was like, we were in college at the same time, and when I was 50 years old, decided to go back to college, or go to college. I went to Sinclair, and when I graduated from Sinclair with my associate degree, my son graduated that same year from UC with his bachelor's degree. And I always impressed upon my kids that you need to be better than dad. Now I went on and ended up getting my MBA, but to my son, I guess, since we both graduated and he got his bachelor's and I got my associate, well, I guess he feels he is better than dad, or at least he was at that moment. But my daughter, I'm impressing upon her, look, I have an MBA. Only thing left is a PhD. I don't care what it's in, you know, really. But raise that bar for your children. Raise that moral bar. Raise that healthy bar. Raise that educational bar for your children. So when they're striving to be like mommy or daddy, they're striving to be like something positive. Okay? How's that? Well, anyway, been all up in your business. I hope I said something that makes sense to you. Something that you might be able to implement in your life. Recognize that this ain't over. Yeah, George Floyd's family got a lot of money and they're going to be set for life, fine. But that was a demonstration before the world, because the world was watching. Everything else is just as it was. And the thing is, as far as I'm concerned, you cannot expect or even believe that an oppressor who doesn't even consciously believe that they're being oppressive is going to recognize that your life matters, that a black life matters, okay? They don't understand. You know, some of them do, but a lot of them don't. They think they are. One of my best friends is, you know, black. You know, that kind of thing going on. So that's what we're dealing with right now. And if you want your children to be successful, if you want our children, I'm saying even outside of your own blood children, if you want our community to be well, there's some sacrifices we're going to have to make. Nothing comes without sacrifice. Nothing significant shows up without sacrifice. But this kind of sacrifice will be beneficial for us. I know when I'm exercising, man. I mean, I exercise every day. The cardio, 40-minute cardio. Yesterday, especially, I don't know why, I just wasn't feeling like it. But I pushed myself. And I made myself exercise. And like 10 minutes into it, man, I was feeling great. And it was like the toughest, most exhilarating exercise that I've had in a long time. But I had to press my way through, because I knew, although I didn't feel like it, I knew it was what I needed to do. I knew it was what I really wanted to do, but I just had to get there. So I pressed my way through and did what I didn't feel like doing, and the benefit was phenomenal. And that's how it is in life for us. You know, there has to be sacrifice. I think we come from we come from a history of trouble, a history of unfair treatment, a history of not even knowing what tomorrow was going to be like, and not even accepting and not even expecting to receive a fair shake throughout life. And I think generationally that has passed down a particular attitude that is as sort of about, let me just make sure that I'm happy now and not really too concerned about tomorrow. But the problem is, and I think we've all realized at this point, that tomorrow comes. Tomorrow's going to get here, and the decisions that we make today is going to determine how satisfied our tomorrow is going to be. If not, we're going to find ourselves tomorrow scraping to survive in some kind of emotional wellness, which is going to take a toll on the next day. And then we're going to do the same thing that day, and we're going to find ourselves so deep into satisfying ourselves for the moment, not worrying about the next day. So we're always scrambling the next day to find some kind of peace, some kind of wellness. And often that takes neglect. Neglecting something that we need to do, neglecting a bill being paid, neglecting showing up for work, neglecting doing a good job, just neglecting something that needs to be done, where if we just all of a sudden begin doing the right thing, which might mean sacrifice for the moment, we could begin making our tomorrows even better, okay? And so that's in every aspect of life, you know, sacrifice the foods that you really want to eat for the foods that you should be eating. Sacrifice blowing the money on weed or Chevis or, you know, going out and putting that in your bank account or your 401k. We need to take ourselves out of the satisfying ourselves for the day and begin preparing for the future, because as most of us recognize, the future always comes. And for those of us where the future didn't come, you won't know anyway, but someone will be able to benefit. Someone will be able to benefit from your sacrifice. And so we just need to turn this around. Situation hasn't changed because George Floyd's family got $27 million. And situation is not going to change. Why would you expect an oppressor to change? What point? When they're benefiting. They're either benefiting and they didn't even realize there's an issue. Why would they change? They're not going to change. They're not going to change. And those that are in power, those that recognize the situation, but they're just doing too well, they're not going to. Why would you ask them? Why would you beg them to consider that Black Lives Matter? They don't have it even within their ability, within their ability, their mental ability to even grasp that concept. And never. You cannot appropriate what is already yours through begging. You just can't. It's already yours. So how are they going to give you what's already yours? What they haven't given you is what you've allowed them to keep by not functioning in a proper way. Okay? Well, I think I've given you enough to chew on. I hope I've said something that will benefit you. I do want to thank you for listening, and I want to invite you to listen again. You take care.